This week on the House of Mario, we're joined by Dennis. He's a highly skilled ARMS player, esports caster, and streamer. He is also owner of the ARMS esports team, Fellows in Arms, and is host of the ARMS-centric podcast, also called Fellows in Arms. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Let's go! What's up, everybody? Welcome to the House of Mario, episode 34. I'm your host, Drew Agnew, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Bryce DeWitt.
Hello.
And joining us all the way from Sweden is Dennis / Defur. How you going, dude?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I wasn't sure if I was going to say like good morning or good evening, depending on like where everyone is. But it's nice to be here. Thanks for having me on. I'm doing good.
No worries. So Dennis, you're right into the ARMS community, and I found the community of ARMS players on Twitter, and I was just fascinated by how much into ARMS you guys were, because ARMS is a fairly new IP from Nintendo, and it's only been sort of the recent couple of years that sort of Nintendo's gotten into esports and higher level play with recently Smash Bros and Splatoon. So how did you end up getting into Splatoon? I mean, Splatoon.
I have played Splatoon 2, but I actually got into ARMS very quickly. It basically started when I saw the first trailer. I just decided that I was going to go all in for it, basically. I've been involved with esports before and have liked or, been really into like StarCraft and Team Fortress 2 and games like that. So when I saw the game coming out on the Switch or the trailer for it, I just kind of decided, I'll just like heavily invest into this game. And then things just kind of developed around that. I've been doing quite a lot of things in regards to the game now, but that's how it started. At least I just like decided I'm going to be a content creator and do stuff for this game, and I'll just be in the community somehow.
So sort of what about the game made you go, I really want to get into that?
I can't really remember like the specific one, but I think the feeling I got when I saw the trailer the first time was that it just felt right. I'm not sure how to say it, but it's just like the gameplay and the feeling of the game was just kind of, this is just really well packaged. I think you get the same kind of feeling when you first saw Overwatch. Like you saw the actual like the world and the characters, everything just seemed to fit so well together. And I just got fascinated by how it was switching up fighting games, basically, because it's not like the other fighting games, as you probably know that, but since it's a bit different, I just everyone is on even footing in this game. I want to get in on this, basically.
Yeah, put in your all in, essentially. We're both fans of ARMS at the show. We haven't invested as much time as we probably want to with the Switch's massive year.
Yeah.
But how many hours do you think you've put into ARMS at this point?
It's actually hard to say, because I've been besides actually playing ARMS, I've been hosting tournaments and kind of live casting a lot of tournaments. So that that involves having the game up but not actually playing it, just staring at the screen like talking about whatever is happening or spectating it. So I think I have around probably like 300 hours or something, but most of that has been actually casting it, or I think half is about casting it and half is playing it. So I'm actually in the lower half of the people who are very invested to the game. I know people who have like 1,000 to 2,000 hours into the game, but for me, I'm like kind of the pleb, or like the peasant in the community, who is just like, I only have merely 300 hours. So
yeah, that's awesome how there's such a dedicated fan base to this game. But like pretty much the last 2 months after the game come out, you don't hear a lot about ARMS in sort of the mainstream gaming media.
No, go ahead.
Like
Sorry.
Sorry. I feel like Splatoon sort of cut that short, unfortunately, which was sad to see.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. I mean, I'm not going to like defend that or deny that. It really felt like when ARMS came out, especially outside of Japan, it was very much like the window, especially in the summer. They had like, Breath of the Wild, Odyssey, Mario Kart. Everything was just like getting punched out once a month, and ARMS was one of those games that just got released, and then Splatoon was like a month later, I think. And it had much more momentum since from the first game, heavier or bigger fan base as well. So it just kind of took the spotlight. But I think in Japan, ARMS has actually been kind of big because they had this official tournament by Nintendo that they had, I think, once a month, where they had in different towns or cities in Japan, they had this like official tournament, and there also was a really big tournament. I'm not sure if you guys know it, but it's called 2GG. It's they usually do Super Smash tournaments around in America or the States rather, and they had an ARMS Saga tournament where they basically had a Smash and ARMS, which I think it was in August, which was the kind of so there has been some things happening like in the beginning there, but yeah, it was we would have wanted more support, of course, especially me being in Europe, just being like the hello Nintendo Sweden, please send help kind of thing.
Yeah. And actually, just not to date this episode, but going back to the most recent Direct, it was really like I was really warmed to see that Nintendo is doing more tournaments and that for ARMS again after the new patch came out.
Yeah, we were actually streaming when I haven't fully I guess introduced what I do in ARMS, but I have an esports team in ARMS where I'm the team captain, and I have 5 players, 6 with me included, where we kind of play the game and do stuff and stream the game and things like that. And so we had a stream when we were watching the Direct together, and I think we were all baffled when we saw ARMS in the actual Direct, because we were just like, we were all talking about Smash, and is it going to be something about Smash or not? And then when ARMS just popped up, we were just like, what? Oh, well, we're happy, but I'm not sure how to feel about this, because it was just out of nowhere, kind of this invitational or qualifying thing that they announced now, which two players in my team are trying really hard to qualify to that right now, and I think a couple of days ago they were topping. There is this dashboard top 200 players list for ARMS, and they were first and third on that list. So,
oh, wow. Yep.
Yeah, so they have been going all in. They like playing I don't know how many hours per day to try to stay up on those rankings, but yeah, it was really hype. Besides Smash, which was also really hype. I think everyone. I don't know how you guys felt about that, but
oh my God.
we were basically just screaming when we saw that.
I was just catching up on the Direct in the car. I was driving somewhere for a wedding, and I just had the Direct on, and I was like, oh, this is Smash. And I woke up my girlfriend, who was sleeping on the way.
Yeah, we were just like screaming all together, and then because I rewatched the stream, and we were all just like silent after the trailer ended, and then we just sat there for 5 minutes and just like, well, now what? Like, what am I supposed to do now? It was just too much.
You just have to wait for more information.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't remember what the question originally, what we originated from, but a lot of things has been happening, and the Direct was super interesting because we didn't expect more. Like every time they start to support ARMS more, we get surprised because we're not expecting anything. We're at that kind of level where it's just like when Nintendo gives the ARMS community any sort of how do you put it, like attention, I guess.
Yep.
we just like, oh wow, they noticed us, yay. So we're kind of, I think the community is very still much humble one. It's like, it's smaller obviously than most esports communities and stuff like that, but and in a good way, I think, because it still has that kind of grassroots feel where it's most people know each other, and most people want to work together to kind of grow it. It's not like this corporate invested heavily kind of thing where a lot of esports are right now, like Overwatch, for example.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
Going back to you, your team captain for Fellows in Arms.
Yes.
Did you have prior experience to sort of leading a team of esports players, or is this something you just decided to pick up now that you have really gotten into competitive arms?
Yeah, like I've been really, like, most of my teenage years and like growing up, esports has been like a huge part of my life. So I was super heavily invested in Team Fortress 2 for about 6 years, I think. And at one point I got into a team which was one of the best in Europe, and then I was just leading teams for like several years, and then at some point it was like the breaking point of my family telling me either you have to, get your grades together, like get your shit together, or you play games. And then I just like, nah, okay, I'll just not play games and actually try to get some grades. And in StarCraft, I tried to become a good player in esports, and I had like a team with a friend, but that I got carpal tunnel in both of my arms. So, so I kind of took a break from gaming in general, at least for esports stuff. But then when ARMS came out, I just, I like, oh well, my passion came back for it basically, and I actually bought the Switch solely for getting ARMS. So I haven't played the Zelda or Mario actually, which is like blasphemy. I know I'm going to play them, but I usually surprise people when I say that.
Well, they're not going anywhere, so you've got plenty of time to play them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, this was a question I was going to ask you at the start of the episode, but I just skipped right over it. What is your favorite Nintendo game? Like, what's your history with playing Nintendo games?
Oh wow, yeah. So actually, I had Nintendo in my life when I was a child. So like the 8-bit, 16-bit with Super Nintendo and the first two consoles, and then I had the Game Boys. So I grew up with Pokemon and kind of learned English when playing Pokemon, because Pokemon is not in Swedish. So so it's like for me, Pokemon was like very kind of important to me, because I learned English faster than the other kids. So I had to like tell them what to do in the game and be their kind of like guide, which was fun. And so I think Pokemon, probably Pokemon Gold, I think it was Gold or Crystal, that was like the peak of like Pokemon for me. But then after that, it's kind of like I never had a 64 or GameCube, and then now I came back with the Switch and just like trying to recap everything, and just like, whoa, okay, I missed a ton of games. So
did ARMS bring you back sort of to Nintendo platforms, or?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and like now I'm trying out, and I want to try out more Nintendo games now, because I kind of forgot how like when you don't play the Nintendo games and you see them from afar, it just looks like, and I'm not I'm not gonna sound like I'm taking a jab at this, but like from afar, if you're not into the community in games, it looks like kids games, But then when you actually play the games, you realize that oh well, the humor is like it's for everyone, it's more inclusive, and it's like it's actually really funny, like the humor that they have in the games, for all ages. Like it's like cartoons where it's like they have jokes for adults, but it's also for kids, you know. So, and the quality of the games are just like fantastic. So I think I've just been far away from it, but now when actually trying it out, I just like, oh shit, okay, I missed so much. Now I realized what I've been doing or not doing. So that kind of feeling.
Yeah. Well, that's one of my favorite things about Nintendo games as well. Just that, like, you can play them and they, like, personally, they make me so happy. Like, if you've had a bad day and you come home and you play Mario, that just puts such a big smile on your face. And even Bryce with his daughter, when she's old enough, he won't have any problem putting the Switch in front of her.
No, not at all.
Yeah. No, I've been seeing that, and also the Switch, I think, at my company. So I work with apps for kids, basically, and a lot of people at the company have a Switch, and sometimes they bring their kids to work, and it's just like, you know, I really understand why this console is successful. For me coming home and being kind of relaxed, it's like when I put on the Switch, I'm like going hardcore competitive mode. So I'm trying to go back to like chill out. I've just been playing, what is it, Night in the Woods that got released on it, and I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, I can relax while playing games too. That's a thing, right? Okay. So it's good to hear that people are doing that, because it reminds me of to relax a bit.
Yeah. Just going back to ARMS. Personally, I play just pretty much just Ribbon Girl. I really enjoy Ribbon Girl just for her multiple jumps and maneuverability. Do most of the players, do they stick to one character, or do they sort of jump around depending on who they're versing and what the circumstances are? That's
a really interesting question. Actually, I feel like ARMS in a lot of ways is a very different game to fighting games, because in fighting games you have people who are like, they main a character through several generations of a game. Like this one dude who is maining Mario for like all the Smash games, or some dude mains Jin in like 5 Tekken games or something like that. But in ARMS you don't really have anything like that, because everyone is on even footing, and the balancing is so kind of equal. Like all the characters are viable, basically. So it has created this thing where in the beginning, when the competitive scene started, everyone picked their character, and I'm very much one of those people who only played Springman for like 6 months. I never even touched the other characters. I just like, okay, I got this character and I got that. But now in the last like 3 or 4 months, people, especially in the higher levels of ARMS, have been branching out and like counter picking with characters. So there's like one guy in my team, he mains 4 or 5 characters, and one of the best Japanese players, he mains 3 characters. So it's something that it's changing, and I think the more like the ARMS develops, the meta around it, I think more and more players are just going to like know almost all characters or most of the characters. But and then there's going to be some players who only play one. But I think that's knowing all the characters is possible, and that people do it, basically. I don't know if that answered the question. Sorry, I kind of like went off.
No,
you're fine.
No, that definitely did.
Just as a question from me, the metagame is obviously really important, as you know from being in a background of esports.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there any particular characters that have probably seen a bit more meta than others?
Yeah. That it has been, and I think a lot of people are like. I think a lot of people, when they talk about meta, they don't realize that it's something that can develop for several years. Like, if you look at other games like, you know, StarCraft 1, where it's like they haven't updated the game for 12 years, and then some dude finds a new strategy after 6 years, and it changes the entire game. ARMS is in such a like baby state where it's like no one really knows what they're doing still, even though like, and we got a new character like almost each month, so it was this like changing everything. A lot of people thought, for example, that Master Mummy was one of the worst characters for a long time, and I think Master Mummy, Helix, or DNA Man, as he's in Japan, and Bite and Bark, like those three characters, people have been kind of saying, oh, well, these are the worst characters. And then one guy, who his nickname is Gore Magala, he picked up Helix, and he's considered like one of the best players in the world now. But he's like the only guy who can play that with Helix. And then there's another guy who picked up Master Mummy and was one of the best players. So we're like, we keep questioning ourselves of like, what is the bad? Like which character is bad and which arm is bad. So it's really difficult to say, and I hate that because when you have like clear tier lists, that's what gets eyes. Like when you see a tier list in Smash, people just instantly get like, oh, I'll never play freaking Game & Watch because he's, I don't know, C, F tier or whatever. And in ARMS, it's just like, okay, everyone is A tier. Well, what do I pick? Like, it's so it's difficult. It's changing, and they're still patching the game. Although more of like balance updates recently after New Year's, it's been more or less like fixing things. They added a tournament mode and stuff like that, but it's hard to say. I think if there's an opinion, I probably think that Bite and Bark still is one of the worst characters because he's really difficult to play. But and he has like some gimmicks of where it's he has this dog that he is controlled by an AI, and it's kind of like predictable of how the AI moves instead of the player, because the player can do mix-ups and stuff, but the AI will always work in a single way, you know. And Misango is also one of the characters which is like, he's really complex, where he can change his style depending on the mask that he wears. So he has like one mask that can change to 3 colors, and it's really kind of more complicated than the other characters. So they're still viable, but I think that they're a bit too complex compared to the other characters, and like a bit too different.
I really like that the game is that way at the moment, because like you were saying just before with Smash and tier lists, like I feel player skill is necessarily important. When adding to that factor, a lot of people go to tier lists and they'll go, you know, Fox is SS or whatever in Smash, and they'll immediately gravitate towards that character. But because, you know, Fox can either be super complicated depending on how you want to play him, or, you know, it's a big bout on player skill, and like approaching tier lists and going, this is what I'm going to do, you'd have to put a lot of work into it to also like get to that same sort of ranking yourself. But with ARMS not having an official tier list like that, and everybody having you know, their own unique abilities to change the game up, and there not being an established tier list at the moment is probably a better thing, because we're seeing a lot more variety. I think that's the major thing.
Yeah, I just realized too, like, we're probably gonna trigger so much like Smash players in this episode. If it's just like, yeah, Fox is a S or whatever, and Game Watch is like sucks, and people are just like, besides the fact, I think it's the positive of not having tier list is that there is diversity. The worst thing is that it's like harder for a new player to get into and like kind of understand what's going on, because since ARMS is so new and there's so many like factors to play in, like you can like customize a character to be whatever you want to. It's like, okay, well, how do I do this? Like there's almost like there are a few guides to characters in this game, but you know, if you go to Smash, for example, and I want to learn this character. Okay, do you have like 5 videos of guides, like 5 different playstyles for this character? Done. This is what you need to learn. In ARMS, it's just like, well, do whatever you feel like. And it's like, okay. And that's really, I think for a lot of people, that's much harder to take in and be like, oh, okay, well, I'll just trust myself. Like, a lot of people just want to have, like, oh, this is what you need to do to win the game. Like, you shouldn't be able to, like, explore it. And those kind of guides will take a long time before they come out, since they're like there's so many factors to it. So I think there's both plus, like, good and bad things about not having complete tier lists, basically.
Yeah, I like that as well. Just how creative you can be with all of the different arms you can put on, and as well as like it's good that people are coming up with different and creative ideas to take down their opponents. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and one of the cool things that actually does happen with that is, because I've been, I think, I think I watched all the tournaments in ARMS. It sounds like ridiculous, but like all the tournaments that have been streamed, or like the major ones, and so I watched through most of them because I want to get to know the players and everything like that. And for me, it's really fun to see, like, oh, this combination on this character, this is totally like his signature. And then when that player is seen or like wins a tournament, then you start to see on ranked other people using that exact combination, and you're like, oh, these people actually probably saw this character. Like, like an example is Kid Cobra. There's this combination of using a popper and a mega ton, which a German player called Rafa used, and he was topping the dashboard for a long while. And once he got up there and started winning tournaments, I saw that combination everywhere, and it was really frustrating because it was one of the combinations that I didn't know how to counter. So I just, like, I had a good time on ranked, and then the next week I couldn't win anything because this guy just came in and like, hey, this is the combination to kill Defur, and it's just like, oh, god damn. But while casting it, it's fun because I can see, like, the patterns of people looking up to other players, or people trying out a combination, or like play style, or things like that. It's really, I love that kind of thing with the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Community growth.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. It's, you know, it drives you to play these things as well when you start seeing people winning with it. Being from somebody who loves competitive gaming, I watch a lot of this stuff myself, whether it would be, you know, Smash, or sometimes I tune into other fighting games, whether it be Street Fighter or, you know, DOA even. I used to be a big DOA fan too.
Rip.
It's Cheer.
Sorry.
I think the growth, like, obviously the growth process is, you know, watching other people, seeing their ideas, trying to put them into your own practice, and then go forward as is. And it's like exactly what you're explaining, but with arms, obviously, with the ability to customize arms and having a different way to combat your opponent depending on what you've picked. It mixes up, especially when you throw character abilities into the mix. I think it just mixes up a lot of things. It's like playing Smash Bros with items, except you're not really.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. Like the metaphor holds, I think. But in like balanced items. Like, I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, not hey. Look,
as I said, we're going to make a lot of Smash players angry with this.
Yeah, I will.
No, I'm joking. But yeah, I think, and I think there's still things that we're learning, which is still super fun, because a lot of people got so worried when, I think it was around Christmas, when Yabuki, who is the producer, who is like the face of the game, basically, he stated in some interview or something that, oh, this is going to be the last major update for ARMS, basically, he said, after 5.0. And there was like this kind of panic in the community where it's like, oh no, the game is going to die. And then after a week, people are just like, but wait, the game just got released. We have no idea what we're doing. And then everyone just like, yay! And I've been seeing like even now. Yesterday there was a big tournament in Japan for called the Spring Fest, which had, I think it had both ARMS. Yeah, it had ARMS, Pokken, and Smash 4. So it was like a Nintendo Twitch event, which was really cool. Awesome. Yeah, and I'd recommend checking out those VODs. Actually, there was like high production and big stage and everything. And one of the cool things we saw there from the ARMS tournament was Pega, who is a Japanese player who won EVO Japan, which is one of the majors that have been in ARMS. He won the tournament pretty convincingly. Don't think he dropped a single game. And then they had a show match after, like exhibition match. I mean, after the tournament, where someone who won a tournament a month ago. They've started to have this kind of like wrestling thing where they had like like a wrestling belt, or like like the boxing belts that had the huge ones. Yeah. He got one of those when he won when Pega won the Nintendo tournament, and then when he won EVO Japan, he just like, whoever can win against me will get this belt, and then he just like left it there. And then a month later, a guy won it and took the belt from him. It was like, whoa! It's like building storylines. And so at Springfest, they had this exhibition match between Pega, the original belt wearer, and the guy that took it from him, Chateau. Pega just won like 3-0, so it was kind of like one hand. He just like took it back. But the point that I wanted to make was that. So he mains Max Brass, that's like his game. But in the last game, he switched to Min Min, which people were like surprised about because they haven't seen him play that. But I saw him stream when he did that, and he did a new thing where usually when people play Min Min, she has this ability where she dashes and she like kicks, so she can like kick away one of the gloves. And a lot of players, or all players, have been using that defensively, where they kick away a glove and then they charge up. But he was using that offensively, and I've never seen that before. And so when he did that on stream, like he basically jumped towards the character and dashed, so he like kicked the glove away, and won really fast. And people were just like, "Whoa! I haven't even seen that in the game." And they're like, "There are still things we need to learn." So it was an awesome feeling to see that, actually.
You have to get awfully close to do that, wouldn't you? To do that. Dash
It's kind of really hard timing, so it's cool to see that there are still things to be explored, basically.
Yeah. You just touched on EVO Japan just then. You guys went there earlier this year. Was it earlier this year or late last year?
It was earlier this year. It was at the end of January. So at the I think in August they announced EVO Japan and the inclusion of ARMS, which was really big for the community, because it was as I said before, even the community didn't expect it. It's like, nah, we're never gonna be at EVO, and it's like, hey, you're at EVO. Oh, okay. Shit, what do we do now?
That's massive. That's what you could dream of for
and
the game you're playing.
Yeah, that's what you want for the game.
Yeah, and a lot of people saw it as a goal to like look forward to, and there was a lot of people who traveled there, and I was one of them. So I went, all the way from Sweden to go to Japan, and there was people from America, there was a guy from Finland, 3 guys from the UK, and I think it speaks volumes, because this tournament, as it was in Japan, where esports is not legal technically, like you can't win prize money. There was no prize money for this tournament, so a lot of people traveled the globe to play in this tournament for honor.
Oh, wow.
So me and 3 other players from my team played in that tournament. It was me, my other teammate called the Hanukkah Jamboree from America, Nobi, who is from China, and Meow from Pakistan. So we're like really international. We all traveled, and it was like the first time we met each other in real life as well. And it was the first time the Japanese players faced the American, or basically Japan faced the rest of the world. Like they've been playing with only in Japan, and we've been playing kind of on a global scale because we can speak English and communicate with each other. So it was like the first time the two communities met, like the West and Japan. So it was like a lot of things happening at the same time, basically. It was very intense 2 days for everyone, I think, that was involved.
Absolutely. Would have been a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I and I think for me, I went, it was like 300 people in that tournament, and I was like the first non-Japanese player to get like eliminated. So it was it was like really, I since I've been more trying to cast the game, and like this is gonna sound like such a bad excuse, but I haven't been playing the game that much, so I didn't feel that bad. But there was an incident where I just like, I didn't check my controllers before the game started, and then someone had like removed some of the control patterns, so when the game started, I couldn't jump and anything. I was just like and then when I told the referee, he was like, well, you said that too late, so we'll give a round to the other guy. And then I just like got tilted and lost, and I was just like, oh well, I just traveled to Japan for this, it's fine, I'm fine. But yeah, it was
were there many people using motion controls at EVO?
It was I think like percentage wise, I think it's like maybe 20% motion control users, and then but it depends on the area. Like there was one tournament a month ago where there were almost all people were using motion controls, but it's mostly common to use the pro controllers, and for people with tiny hands, the Joy-Con grip. Which is great. They have an option too, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's both controllers are viable. That's a question that gets asked a lot for the ARMS community. Is like, can you use the motion controllers at the highest level? And yeah, there was the Finnish guy Kujora that went to there. I think he was number 1 on the dashboard for like 2 or 3 months, and he has always been a motion control player. So there are some differences in how they work, but yeah, definitely good, and that's really like good on Nintendo for, you know, making that. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that in any other game in that way.
Yeah, no. Like with the motion controls, you can control both arms at once, but I just feel like you can't punch and move around as well.
Yeah, that's kind of what people have been saying, that when you use the Pro controller, you can move around more easily, but you can only control one arm at a time. So it's kind of weird. Like, you can't really aim as well. But with the motion controls, you can like aim them individually. But
yeah.
And as I said with the carpal tunnel, I was just like, like looking at that. Like, I tried playing the motion controls a bit, and then just like after half an hour, I'm just like, everything hurts. I'm not gonna use this. I'm not gonna use this play style. But yeah. So basically, motion controls is aim, and Pro controller is like movement is the better thing. So
yep.
Too bad that there's like no like perfect one, but I guess that's the
no middle ground. Yeah.
It's like
that's
what
really
this
interesting though.
Yeah. I was gonna say the single Joy-Con, but then it's like, no, that's even more terrible.
I haven't even tried that. I don't want to try the single.
No. There is a badge in the game for like playing like 50 hundreds of games with the single Joy-Con, and I saw that, I was like, No, I'm not gonna go for it. I don't need it.
I don't know why you would do it.
No,
I find it hard enough to just even if I'm just sitting at a table playing Mario Kart with someone, my fingers just get to that point where like they're always curled.
Yeah. It's fine for Mario Kart, but I feel like ARMS is.
Oh yeah, that's pushing it.
Yeah. I had a friend that actually really liked the single Joy-Con. He said, because when he got the controller, he said it was the easiest controller to remember the controls on. Like, it looks like the 8-bit controller, you know? So it's just like, oh, here's what you move, and this to punch. Yeah, okay, I get it. When I showed him the motion controllers, he was just like, kind of looking at his hands while he was playing. And I'm just like, no, look at the screen, don't... Oh, okay. And then he was losing.
You Twitch stream a fair bit, do you?
Sorry again. Could you say that?
Do you Twitch stream a fair bit?
Yeah, I've done. I've been streaming on Twitch since before ARMS too, but now very much so heavily focused on ARMS for a long time. Both streaming tournaments for others, but also streaming when I just play. So I streamed a tournament about a month ago it was an Asia and Oceania championship. So there was a couple of Australian players there actually, and
not us.
Yeah. And so I've been trying to do both, but it's interesting because now I'm kind of, you know, that is what I stream. If I stream something else, it's like, hey, why aren't you streaming ARMS? So I'm like, dang it. Okay, I'll stream some ARMS. You know.
What other games would you like to stream if your audience doesn't keep asking you?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely going to be looking, since I am a competitive player. I'm actually really excited for the Mario Tennis and Smash to just like.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Yep.
And I know that like Mario Tennis might not. Yeah, I'm a super serious competitive player. I'm gonna play tennis. Might not say, but I am actually really hyped. Yeah, no,
it's got a fair bit.
And they even have the tournament mode in that, which I wish they put in ARMS. But you know, you can't have everything. So
yeah.
How do you feel about how ARMS is going on Twitch? Because I think it was about maybe a month after the game come out, it sort of dropped right off Twitch. Like there was one point I was streaming it, and I was literally the only one at the time streaming it on ARMS, on Twitch. Sorry, are there sort of more competitive players like yourself sort of putting it on Twitch, or is it still pretty quiet?
Yeah, it's. I think there are at certain times there have been streamers that have come out who are like very dedicated to ARMS. I'm not. I'm very bad at keeping a schedule or anything like that when streaming. I stream like once a month, or then suddenly like every day for a week. But there are people like Scrimps is probably the most well known, who he has, I think, 2 tournaments a week at like specific times. So then the community kind of gathers for his stream, and he tries to like reach out and get new players in. But then there are also Tentan Man, who is a partnered Twitch streamer, and he just like picked up the game and accidentally was one of the best players at it. So he just like, oh, okay, I guess I'll continue playing this and be the best. So for a long time he had like the in the stream title it was just like best ARMS player, and a lot of like people were getting like really angry at him. But yeah, it's been mostly like nowadays it's very like the dedicated competitive player streaming now and then, and occasionally casual streams that stream other games, and then they're like, hey, I'll stream some ARMS, and then they like, whenever that happens, like when a casual streamer just like something plops up on ARMS, like the entire community is just like bumps in onto that stream and is like, hey, do you want to learn some stuff? And they're like, huh, who are these people?
It's like, you're not good enough. This is how you get better.
Yeah. No, it's actually very, like, when I've seen that happen, they're actually very positive when it happens. So I'm happy for that, because I tried once. I streamed Tekken 7, and I've been playing Tekken since I'm a kid, but I suck at it. And I just put it on, and instantly a guy like stream sniped me, and then he went into the chat and was just like, "Yeah, you're kind of dropping your combos a bit." I'm just like, "Yeah, I've played this twice. I don't know what are you talking about?" But in ARMS, it's like mostly people are just like, "Yeah, you'll get there. It's fine. It's okay. You'll learn." Which is good. But yeah, it's very, it's small, but I think it's understandable. It's a new IP, and very much like an experiment of Nintendo's. I feel like trying out new things. So it's growing a bit, but very slowly at the moment, I'd say, in those terms.
Do you see the potential for ARMS 2?
Definitely. I think, and not just speaking from my own opinion, there was actually an interview with Famitsu, and a Japanese publication, who interviewed Yabuki this week, actually, and they asked him that, and he said, "I definitely want to do that, but it's too early to say anything." And I think, looking at what they've been doing, Nintendo, in terms of like competitive games, like Splatoon, I felt like Splatoon 1 was their experiment with that, and then in Splatoon 2 they just like improved everything, and everything got bigger, and the bigger systems, and we're gonna have tournaments. And with Pokken, it was a smaller version of that, where they, with the port, it was like and I feel like ARMS, if they think the investment was worth it, I think definitely there's going to be an ARMS 2, maybe in like 4 or 5 years, hopefully with something just more, like more stuff, more stories, or like a mode where you can platform and walk around or something like that, just not just only the kind of 1 versus 1 Final Destination, no items, no, but you know, I think that there's definitely going to be that, but it looks kind of far away right now, I think, for everyone.
That's actually a question I wanted to ask you, was that, do you ever feel like there is a little bit of a lack of content in ARMS in that regard? Like, I know obviously in terms of characters and arms and like combinations you can make of those characters, it's like, you know, it's expansive and there's a lot to do with it. But do you ever feel like maybe just the single player arcade's not enough if you just want to sit down and relax? Or, you know, do you feel like that there needs to be more features that are catered towards like the esports crowd at all? Or
I think there needs to be more of everything, basically. For me, what's interesting in games is not what everyone else thinks. I think in terms of what keeps people playing. I think for me the interesting parts are like the very minuscule things, like the mind games of this particular second in a game. Like, it's very like niched on a single moment, whilst as most people who play ARMS or like Switch in general are just like looking to relax. And I think that the lobby, or like the party mode that is in ARMS, is very kind of, you can play it for some hour and then you'll get kind of bored of it. But if you have a community, then you'll play more. Or if you're competitive minded, then you'll play more. But if you don't have those two, and to be honest, it's kind of difficult on the Switch to have a community, because you can't message each other or talk to each other through the system, which also kind of damages, I think, all the games in one way, that you can't really contact people. But I think there needs to be a lot more to capture players. I mean, if you just like, kind of like how Overwatch became with Blizzard, they just like went all in, and they had this like mini movies for each character, which like builds a whole story. They have comic books. I mean, there is going to be a comic book for ARMS coming out in 2 months, a manga, but just like, you know, the entirety needs to be with it. And I understand that they didn't want to invest all that in an quote-unquote experiment, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. Do you guys agree, or I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think when like in terms of like the actual world itself, you know, you've got your character bios and stuff like that, and they talk about what happened with people getting arms and all that. I would have liked to have seen like a mini story mode sort of thing, like they kind of do with each individual character in most games like Street Fighter, Tekken, etc. Something like that would have been nice, I think, just to sort of break away from just the pure 1v1 aspect. Like you had a little bit of it with stuff like, you know, Max Brass at the end of the game and Headlock. You know, you had that kind of thing that was in there in the background, and it served as more of like, hey, look, it's a bit of fluff at the end of the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I want to know more about these characters. You know, I want to know more about Springman Room Girl. I want to know more about Helix and what's going on with him. I want to know more about Master Mummy and why he's continuing to be a big brick house with, you know, massive bowler arms. I think it needs that little. I think it needed that little bit of extra fluff just to make me go, hey, I want to sit down and play all these characters and get to know them.
Yeah.
I think it's got super apparent. I don't know if that's obvious to a lot of people, but at least for me, I have worked a bit in games and seeing all of these, like that it really feels like ARMS had a lower budget than other games such as Splatoon, because you know, like Biff, the character in the trailers, he has a voice actor, but in the game he's just like mini,
that
and
surprised me when the game came out. Honestly, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and just like not having cutscenes, there's just like pictures and then text. And most of the lore that you're talking about is actually like not in the game; it's on Twitter. In tweets, and it's just like like you can't really expect a player like imagine a 12-year-old or something picking up the game who like doesn't use Twitter even. Like, how are they supposed to even start to like these characters? They only have the game, you know. So I definitely agree with that. I hope we can get more of that.
Yeah, it's you're not wrong about trying to catch, you know, kids' attention as well, because I think it's like once kids have made a time investment into a character, it's usually because they have some sort of trait that they really admire or they love, sort of thing. But it doesn't feel like there's a massive sort of that apart from the thematics of the characters. Like that, there's no real story to go along with them. It's kind of just like I like Springman because he's got blue hair that looks like toothpaste if you align it in a certain way.
The Colgate hair.
Colgate hair. That's good.
But the thing that I think is that there's so much potential for these characters, because when you see them, you're kind of like, because they look kind of similar to the Overwatch characters. I keep mentioning Overwatch, but it's just because of this like stylistic minimalistic design that they have, that just like you see the silhouette and you know instantly who they are. And with Overwatch you're like, oh yeah, that character is like a spy for this company and whatever. But in ARMS it's just like, oh, I want to know that, but I can't. And it's just like you're expecting it to be something there because they're so expressive. And hopefully, like like everyone is like really thirsty for the lore, so it's just like when they release the manga in like 2 months, it's so weird because they keep dropping stuff like randomly. In this Famitsu interview with Yabuki, he just mentions casually like, oh yeah, and the Springman that's in the game, he's actually the 3rd generation of Springman. There's been like 2 others that we haven't really talked about, but I want to do that someday. And then I saw the people on Twitter was like, what? Who is that? and
Yeah, that's
just
really cool. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know. So there's stuff, obviously the stuff that they want to tell but they can't. But I hope that there's a chance for that too.
Well, hopefully the manga clears it up a little bit. I think it would have been better if it was in the game purely for content's sake. Maybe.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right about ARMS being a really big experiment for them. But obviously earlier in the conversation, Splatoon took that spotlight really quickly. But I think it's also because Splatoon had a very early established fan base on Wii U, even though the Switch has outsold Wii U at this point.
Yeah.
But the people that were dedicated to Splatoon immediately picked it up. We back in one of our earlier episodes, we actually talked to two members of the BR Octolings, Blue Ringed Octolings, who played at the E3 tournament.
Yeah, I actually listened to that one.
Yeah.
They
were fantastic. And just talking to them about the community and stuff like that as well, because both of us, we didn't get to invest in a lot of Splatoon 1. My gamepad broke, and he lived on a farm at that time, so trying to get online was a pain in the butt. It seemed like such a small community. And it didn't seem like there was a ton of fluff to it. But as soon as Splatoon 2 hit, it sort of just come out of the cracks. And, everybody stopped talking about ARMS, which was a real shame because, again, Drew went to stream ARMS and there was just nobody on. We were kind of, disappointed, I guess. But it's good to see that I think now that the game has finished updating, all the extra content has sort of come out. And now people are starting to try and form their opinions on, what's good and what's bad, and techniques that should be used and stuff like that. I think that's great. I think that's fantastic, and I think it's good that there's discussion around that. Now that you finally have a build to work with. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I just want to touch upon also how the Splatoon was perceived, because it was interesting. I think when Nintendo does these things, because it feels like right now, as Yabuki said in that Famitsu interview, he mentioned that Nintendo is trying to find their footing within esports, and what is Nintendo's esports, which I really like. If you look at the bigger picture, it's super obvious that they're just trying things out. They're not in going in way over their head. They're having some tournaments, but it's not $1 million prize pool, this guy on the stage. It's not and then it's Monster and Racer just pumping out dubstep. It's not that kind of thing. And for me, so I lived in Japan until April last year for about 1.5 years, and that was before Splatoon 2 was released. And for in Japan, Splatoon was still a very big thing. Even in Japan, it was so huge, and it felt they tried with Splatoon to have the Japanese people test it on the Japanese crowd, and it's okay, this works, now we're gonna blast it out onto the rest of the world. And I feel ARMS is in that position now that Splatoon was in, where they're just testing it on the Japanese crowd, who are very much invested in it. With the Spring Fest having a lot of sign-ups, and there's another tournament coming in a month, and I think ARMS is one of the has one of the most participants in that. It's a big event in Osaka where they have a lot of fighting games. I can't remember them all, Guilty Gear, Tekken, Street Fighter, all of them, and ARMS is one of the top participants in that event. So I think it's interesting just the different perceptions of how the games were, seen outside of Japan. Yeah, I didn't have any final point to that, but I just wanted to mention it. I just yeah.
I feel these smaller competitive communities are so special. They're so interesting. Like ARMS, Splatoon, even what's that Tom Clancy game? what am I thinking of?
Rainbow Six? No,
Six.
wait,
Yeah,
no.
Rainbow Six. Like that's not necessarily a super small community, but
Mm.
these
Smaller
games,
in comparison to other
yeah,
things.
like
Yeah,
I
I know
think
what you mean.
I just feel like there's so much more interesting than say, PUBG or
Mm.
whatever it might
Something
be.
like that, yeah. Something that's really dishing out, and I've talked about my frustrations with stuff like that before, but I think when you take the money away from it and you have fan passion, I think that is the big thing. Like I love prize pool tournaments. I think they're good, and I think they're healthy for the infrastructure of like how competitive gaming works. But I think it's also just as important to have tournaments that are dedicated for the passionate fans that want to go to test their skill level, and then they all sort of convene together and grow as a community. It doesn't have to be about money always.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, in higher branded esports, or whether it's high sponsor or anything like that, like what happened with PUBG tournaments recently and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which is a complete mess. I'm not even gonna touch on PUBG right now.
Yeah.
It's it doesn't really go very far. It's just like, hey, look, they're competing for this money. They're really skilled players. It's like, cool, all right, that's nice. But fighting games is a really big shine in. I think because it just how do I put it? I think it's mainly down to having a roster. A lot of people form what is their own opinion on what works for them. You might be completely better with one character. You might be terrible at another, and you might consider them in completely different tiers. But as long as you make that character work, you can really shine with them. And if you formulate your own opinion, you're typically going to get a better result. It does it like meta is by far like very important, but with ARMS in its current state, with it not being important, I think the room for growth is just it's endless, at least for the next 5 years, like you were saying, in the possibility of a second game coming out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. There was a lot of things I was thinking about when you said all of these things, but I think because there was a lot of like topics touched upon, and I think I'm really interested to see when Nintendo finds their answer of what their version of esports is. Like I'm really, because I just realized now the other day when I just thought about this kind of storyline building in the Japanese scene where they have this guy fighting with this like wrestling belt, and they have like events where it's just like high production value. There's no prize pool, but everyone's just so hyped to see who's going to be the next champion. Like it's kind of like boxing in the 80s or something. It's just like I've never seen that in esports, because it's just like dude in sponsored shirt winning X amount of money. But in ARMS, it's like, especially in Japan, it's just like no one is sponsored, so everyone is wearing these like really casual attires, and just like, yeah, I've been playing this game every day for the 6 months, please. Like, and it's like, oh man, this guy came from nowhere and took the entire thing, and I think that when someone invests so much time and like passion into a game, they deserve to get some sort of money too. But I really like the idea of having some sort of alternative esports where it's not just about the money, and it's like, I don't know, it's more about the competition than just like winning money and stuff like that. So I don't know, it's exciting, and it's kind of cool that we're in this time. Like I almost quoted a meme here, but yeah, I like born just in time for the whatever. But Yeah, so I'm really excited to see where it's going to go, and we're very much in the like infancy of where that is with Nintendo trying out esports right now. So it's frustrating and fun at the same time.
Yeah. No, like I'm really like I find it really entertaining when the Nintendo or other events do these events that aren't just based on money. But like,
Yeah.
I don't find it that interesting when League of Legends or Dota or whatever just go, all right, there's $1 million on the table and they play it and they win it. And I'm like, cool. Like it's
Yeah.
like in saying that I'm not invested in that game or community or whatever, but.
Mm.
I mean, the thing is with esports of that grade, as well as players become such a massive personality. Do you know what I mean? They're pretty much celebrity status for the community of that game.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got teams. Obviously, you're picking your sides, and it turns into it almost turns into an Australian football fest.
Yeah. Come on,
Yeah.
Paul Power.
Pretty much, yeah. You know, it's really it's really competitive amongst the fans as well as it is the actual teams.
Yeah. I feel like this topic is very much like the grassroots versus corporate in esports as well, because it's like fighting games in general has been about the grassroots thing, where it's like, oh, this dude from this state is like, he has been winning his local tournaments and now he's here and he's playing against the 3-time champion. Like, it's really big. And then in the corporate side, it's like, this guy with a salary of $70,000 is going up against this guy with a $70,000 salary. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, this is their job. Like, and it has like, I don't know, there's different things to like about it too, and I don't know, it's a huge topic, like all of this, like grassroots versus corporate, but I feel like ARMS, I want to see a bit more corporate, if I'm going to be honest, in ARMS, because I feel like there are so many players who have been investing so much into this game, like flying, like all the people who flew to Japan, and there's been players who've been flying to America from Europe to be in these tournaments and like support it. I want them to have a support too, but not just not just like crash land into an ESPN studio and be like live from, and then like have a like they suddenly have like a suit, and it's because I saw that the other day they had this like almost like a FIFA like soccer league kind of thing with Street Fighter, and there was just like two dudes in a suit or suits, not in one suit, that would be weird. Two dudes in suits that talked about the game, and then he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna bring up the statistics," and then it's just like of a guy, like two guys playing Street Fighter, and I just turned the stream off because it was just like, I can't, like, I don't watch soccer because of this, and now I don't want it in my game. It's just it's very opinionated and it's different for everyone, but
Well, like that's the end goal. I really hope you guys get there as well with ARMS. I just hope, you know, if and when you do get there, just don't forget what makes watching it interesting.
Yeah. No, I think it's a long way to be that, but like a corporate thing. But I think it's in a good place now, and it's. I think ARMS right now is at the point like after EVO Japan, because EVO Japan was like the very much a goal for everyone, and it was like what happens after this, and now it's up to the community to actually like stabilize and grow a scene and everything like that. And it's, I think a lot of people in ARMS have been comparing it a lot to Smash more than Splatoon. We've talked a lot about Splatoon, but ARMS is basically in the same state where Melee, like Super Smash Bros. Melee was in like 2007 or 8 or something like that, where it's just like there's no money anywhere. People are like busting their saving accounts to like fly out to stuff and things, and it's like it's super exciting, but it's also super frustrating because Smash at that point, they were the only ones, but there was no esports. Now we're doing all of this and like busting our savings accounts, and then we're like, but that guy is getting paid. Why am I not getting paid? And
Yeah.
it's just like, and it's so obvious at the fighting game events where it's just like, you know, you have a stage with like Tekken, and then you have like ARMS in this corner, and we're like, well, oh, you know, we want to be there. It's like, yeah. But I think these things take time, like building communities, and especially for a new game like this, it's going to take time. But there are a lot of people who are passionate and trying this. Specifically, one of the upcoming events is Smash and Splash this June, where people are like, it's like a lot of people are like confirmed right now. 3 players from Japan are going. A lot of people from Europe are going, and I'm super excited to like see what's going to happen there. And I think it's going to be one of the events, probably, hopefully, helping pushing the scene.
Yeah.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
Mm.
I'll move into our last topic for the episode.
Yeah.
You're a fellow podcaster as well. You do
Yes.
a podcast, Fellows in Arms
Yeah.
podcast with other Arms players and members in your team.
Yeah.
What inspired you sort of to start that up?
Yeah, so chronologically, like we've been talking kind of different parts of how things were happening, but when I actually started with ARMS, my first thing was that I'd made a podcast before the game came out. Like that was before the actual team that I had. So I had a podcast that was when the test punch went on, and I had 2 guys on that were interested in the game. And one of them eventually joined this team that I made months later. But in the beginning, Fellows in Arms was just a podcast about arms. And it was one of those things where it's like, I really like to talk, and now I got a subject. Now I want to like do something about it. And it was, I guess you guys can relate a bit to this. And I just felt like it was an interesting take where I wanted something to be very specific. Like there is a lot of podcasts, and I'm not bashing on your podcast too. I like this podcast too. I'm on here, you know. But I wanted to make something different where it's like very niched on this subject. Like people are interested in arms, they can listen to the podcast and get into the scene. They can get into the community. So I made 10 episodes last year. It was over a span of 6 months, and I tried to like go on specific topics, like this specific update or this specific tournament or this scene, or what was it more? We had one of the episodes were just focused on casting. So we had 2 Smash casters and 1 Splatoon caster, and they've all casted ARMS as well. And we were just like discussing ARMS in relation to that, like how does that work and what do you do? So what got me to start it was just really simple. I just wanted to talk about something. I think that's like the base for a lot of podcasts. I just want to talk. And I wanted to talk, and I wanted to allow others to have something that they could base their opinion towards. Like if someone says something on the cast, like we had one cast where a guy was very opinionated and said like default arms is going to be the rule set for everything. Everything else sucks. And then we had people in the comments who disagreed, and that's, you know, a base for discussion. And that's what I wanted. Like that was the goal. When I saw that, I was like, yes, finally, now people are like taking turns of like discussing, and they're moving forward, you know. So that's I think that was the main goal for me, just giving players and viewers something to base their discussions around.
Yeah, I love the idea of like super specific like podcasts, like whether it's a certain franchise or, you know, whatever you're doing a podcast on, because I feel like say just normal gaming podcasts, for example, I feel like they're too vague what they cover.
Yeah.
And like they don't get into the real nitty gritty interesting stuff.
Yeah. There's definitely a balance to that. I think like the vague gaming podcast, they have like personalities that they sell to, but then you also can balance it, which I like with these kind of Nintendo related ones, where you have some sort of common ground. It's not just like, hey, do you like games? It's like, yeah, well, it's like one of the most popular media things that is in the world, you know. Like, do you like books? It's like, yeah, I like books. It's there's different ways. And we also had like at the final episode, we did a community awards. So it was just basically me and another guy, and we had polls on different awards. It was like a mini Oscars kind of thing we did for the community, where people could vote on like the best ARMS artist, the best ARMS streamer, and we also had like the best, what was it, the most exemplary ARMS community person or something, like the most wholesome person in the community. It was kind of funny because the other guy on the cast actually won that. He was like, "Yay, me!" Yeah, and we like the fellow, because it's a small community, so we like the best or the most influential team, and it's like Fellows in Arms got like the majority of the votes, and we were just like, and the prize goes to us. Like, sweet, yeah, it's like we did it. And then some people on Twitter was like, yeah, rigged, but and there was no prizes, but it was really fun because I hired a voice actor who sounds a lot like Biff to do the introductions for the categories, and then I animated Biff like doing videos. So it was like, you know, him coming in like live, Fellows in Arms doing blah 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 blah, and there was like Biff doing the thing. So we tried to do something different in the last one, but the problem with these niche podcasts is that they can get old really fast. So I haven't been doing them since December because I've been thinking I need to do something new, because otherwise to just have these kind of circle topics or discussions, like they don't really go anywhere. So that's like the one big negative thing about these podcasts, and I don't want to get there. So I'm trying to like kind of reinvent that and see how I can change things up.
I guess that's the thing. If you're going deeper into a topic, there are just less topics to talk about. If you're doing it once a week or once a fortnight or even once a month, you know, that the well comes dry pretty quick.
Yeah, it becomes like I imagine these like probably like scientist podcast or something where they're like speaking of some specific theory, and there's just like they're the only ones that get it, and then they're just like speaking of something, and it's just like, who's even listening to this? It's just like madness at that point. It's like, oh, we're on this 68th dimension and layer of meta right now in ARMS, and everyone's like, what is this even? Like,
today we're talking about the spark glove.
Yeah. It's like, the retraction speed of this specific glove, is it good or bad? Let's find out. And it's just like, like, oh my god, it's like too deep. I don't want to go there.
No. They just go into hard data, like, this is how many pixels it takes
for
it to come back into.
Okay. No,
and it's different whether it's on the TV or docked. It's like, gotta look at it separately.
Yeah, I think people. Yeah, you need to. Even I would be like, I need to get out more if I was at that
point. What I love about your podcast is it's just like a community service almost, that people have like a place to go to listen, to get like, you know, their friends or personalities in the community. Like it sounds really cool.
Yeah, I actually heard this when I was in Japan for EVO Japan. A guy told me, is like, yeah, I really like Fellows in Arms because it sounds so friendly in the name. It's like the fellows, it's like the friends hanging out, and I didn't really think of that. I just, when I made the name, it was like either brothers in, no, not brothers, like comrades in arms, or like Fellows in Arms. And I showed it to my friend, and he's like, if you do comrades in arms, that's probably gonna sound like very like Russian, like comrade. And I was like, okay, I'll just take Fellows. And then it's just like became a thing. But the kind of the main goal that we've been doing with having this like community podcast and team is to have a base for the community where people are nice to each other, and trying to actually have not have this like hostile FGC thing where it's just like people on adrenaline like swearing and like throwing their controllers and being aggressive, like, and that exists, and I really dislike that. So like my entire goal with that branding and style was just to have somewhere it's just like, let's be nice, let's like have friendly discussions, and trying to very much enforce that, which can be difficult because people have emotions and, you know, things happen, but it's something that I feel is really important and something that is needed in gaming a lot. So yeah, I'm you know, I hope that people feel the same that are involved in the community. That's my goal, at least, to have something where people can go and feel safe and have fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Defur, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of the House of Mario.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
No worries. Would you like to leave some plugs for the audience to find your stuff on the interwebs?
Sure. If anyone is interested in ARMS in any way, you can find it on several platforms. You can check out the ARMS subreddit on Reddit, and you can also find Fellows in ARMS on Twitter or Discord. You find the Discord through the Twitter, but just search Fellows in ARMS. We have a YouTube where we upload VODs from tournaments, so if you're just interested of gameplay or other videos, we do montages of the community, like Twitch clips and stuff like that. So you can check us out on YouTube and Twitter, and yeah, Google ARMS and you'll find stuff.
Do you have your own personal Twitter?
Yes, it's Defur _, because I couldn't have only Defur. Goddamn, the person who stole that. So just Defur, and you'll find me there. And yeah, I'm Defur on Twitch, though. Nailed that one.
You got that one good.
Yeah.
That's the important one.
Oh, big.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So just DEFUR, and you can find me on Twitch and Twitter. So thanks.
Yeah, too easy. And you can find all those links in the show notes. Bryce, where can they find you on Twitter?
At Bryce Do It on Twitter.
Yeah, and you can find me at iDruby, and you can find the House of Mario at the House of Mario. We have a Discord community as well, so join that if you feel like it. And 5-star iTunes reviews always help. So get amongst.
Not that we're begging for them at this point.
No, we're not begging. No, we're just letting them know. And we are a part of the 8-Bit Collective. So there's 8 other podcasts a part of this. There's wrestling, pop culture, movies, gaming, interviews, D&D, and news shows. And I just want to give a shout out to Jack Cruz, who does It Is What It Is, which is a discussion podcast around the latest news that week. And he does a fantastic job. He has a rotating co-host each week. And I enjoy it quite a bit, so go and check that out. And Jack, have me on, goddammit. And we end the episode each and every week with Nintendo Jukebox. And I actually synced it up this week, Bryce. I actually went and got an ARMS remix.
Oh my
we're
God.
talking about ARMS.
He actually did something.
Usually I just go through my SoundCloud and get go to my likes. Oh yeah, that'll do this week, and just pull that out. So we had a Pokemon episode with no, the Pokemon episode we did too, but we had a Wario episode. We just put a Pokemon song at the end of that. So come on, guys, what are you doing here? So we've got a remix of the main theme of ARMS by General Offensive and Tudd. TUDD.
Tudd.
Yep.
Tudd.
And that lives on the Game Chops channel. So go and have a look at that. And yeah.
Awesome.
Guys, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
See you later. I'm not your mother. You make your own decisions.
All right.